Well, I think everyone will know that feeling, because there is a sense, is there not, that lots of things in this country are not going particularly well. Ross Clark is going to talk to us now. He wrote a piece about our pothole ravaged roads, creaking airports, lousy trains. It's all a bit of a national embarrassment, and nobody knows how to fix it. Ross, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I mean, this, I suppose, coming in the week of Manchester Airport's latest faux pas, where they had a power cut which sort of rendered the place completely and utterly unusable for about 2 days. I'm not even sure if they fixed it yet.
No, no, it's just all too typical, isn't it? Wherever you try to travel, whether by road, by train. Yesterday I had to go down to London, got to station, train cancelled, and then next one half an hour later you
Right.
get on that, and that's delayed as well. Then you get on the underground, and the train there was delayed, and so it goes on. It's just sort of gets to you in the
I
end,
wonder,
doesn't
though,
it?
as well, whether it's some kind of international malaise. It's not just a British problem, because I was bemused to hear from the fans at the Euros, the Scottish fans in particular, at the Euros in Germany, around Munich, saying the trains in Germany were awful, overcrowded, didn't run on time. And I thought, goodness me, if it's happening in Germany, maybe it's a global issue.
Well, German trains have become notorious for delays as well, and the French rail system, which a lot of people in Britain seem to think is marvelous,
Yeah.
that's pretty ropey as well. A couple of years ago, I had to take like 6 trains in the course of a few days,
Yeah.
and 5 of them were more than half an hour late,
Yeah.
and that's the that's the reality of
And have we
French
also,
railways.
we've become, I mean, the people I speak to, as I'm sure you do, we've become sort of almost inured to it, because you just kind of go, oh. I mean, this is why a lot of people drive around in cars. I'm sure one of the reasons the roads are so busy is because people can't trust public transport anymore.
No, no, well, exactly. And obviously during the pandemic, there was a big sort of switch back to road traffic cars, because people sort of didn't feel safe on crowded trains, and
Right,
these incredibly overcrowded trains.
right.
And but I mean, now the railways have fewer sort of peak hour passengers because there are more people working from home. You'd think it would be easier for them to run a rail service, but it doesn't seem to work like
No.
that. Train drivers don't seem to want to work, even though they're paid sort of 100,000 a year, some of them, including overtime. And if they're not on strike, there's some problem with the technology, or that they've sort of invested in these sort of trains which need sort of 300 computers to
Right.
work, and then there's one bug and they stop working, no one knows how to mend it, and it's just sort of total institutional
Yeah.
paralysis you end up with.
Do you think it's as a result of just no investment that's been going on for so long? Because we talked about the NHS today and some bad performances there. We've talked about the trains, as you say, the water companies, the energy companies. We've still got this kind of net zero obsession that every government that has ever been in since about the last 12 years or so has been banging on about. If Labour wins, they'll continue with their net zero, albeit maybe slightly watered down. Do you think we've just sort of taken our eye off the ball when it comes to the administration and the infrastructure of the country?
Well, there's this incredible gap, isn't there, between the ambitions that the main parties have for sort of net zero, and they're going to sort of completely overhaul the energy system within a few years. Labour's going to decarbonise the grid by 2030, the Tories by 2035. There's a sort of huge gap between that ambition and the sort of
Yeah.
reality of infrastructure in Britain, where nothing actually works. And you think, well, it's okay coming up with these grandiose problems, but projects, but if you can't actually solve the day-to-day running of an
Mm.
infrastructure, what infrastructure system, well, why should we believe you when you're sort of claiming that you can undertake these massive energy infrastructure projects within a few years?
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, interesting story in the Times today. It's actually in the business section, but it's a warning coming from Margarita Della Val, who's the CEO of Vodafone, basically saying that Britain's ambitions to become a global leader in artificial intelligence are being hampered by the fact that the 5G mobile data network is basically rubbish.
Yes, and I mean, you think of all, I mean, therefore, that's for people at the sharp end of technology, but it's ropey enough for the most of us. I mean, you go to try and park your car now, or buy a rail ticket, or buy, we're all expected to do everything online. And yet, you get your smartphone out in sort of so many places, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
There's just not enough coverage.
Mm.
And often it's big, either because of rural areas or because you're in a crowded urban area, and there's just too many people trying to make their phones. I mean, yesterday, my delayed train at Cambridge Station, well, you get out your phone, you try and get on the
Right.
internet, and of course, there's 3,000 other people trying to do it at the same time because they're all trying to sort of rearrange their journeys
Yes.
because of cancelled trains as well.
But that's the other thing. I mean, a lot of people would say, whatever you do, don't get your phone out in an urban, crowded setting because somebody on an electric bicycle will go past, take it off you, and disappear into the ether.
Well, they may well do that as well. The solution to that is do what I and have some cheap phone. But I don't know why people spend
No, but I mean,
hundreds of pounds
you've got no faith really in, despite all the promises of the various political parties, you've got no faith in any of them fixing any of this anytime soon.
No, and you mentioned crime as well. It's just sort of crime has just sort of been nowadays is treated as a sort of occupational hazard of
Yeah.
being alive, and you particularly fraud. I mean, if you're sort of defrauded online or something, you go to the police, they're not even the slightest bit interested. They'll just deflect you to this thing called action fraud,
Yeah.
which is supposed to be is run by the police forces, and it's supposed to be a sort of central reporting
Yeah.
place for all fraud, but it's just a sort of black hole. It just exists to collect data, not actually
Yes.
to take any action.
And that is the thing. I mean, whatever we do, somebody's collecting data on it, but it's not doing anything good. It's not actually taking us anywhere that we want to go, and it's not guaranteeing us a better life in any way, shape, or form, is it?
Yeah, sometimes I feel in modern Britain, the only people who are actually working nowadays are the people trying to stop us doing things.
Right.
And to actually try and do anything, and the person's not there. They're working from home or watching the football when they're supposed to be working from
Right.
home. But you sort of drop a fag end or a piece of, or even a £10 note in the street, and there'll always be some sort of
Jobs worth.
one of these jobs worth sort of come and try and
Right.
fine you 150 quid or something. And yeah, when it comes to fining us, stopping us doing anything, I mean all these systems seem to work incredibly efficiently, but not actually
Yes.
when
Well, I will say
doing
that. I
it
mean, the
well.
one thing that works terribly well is the automated cameras that give you a speeding fine, literally 25 nanoseconds after you've driven past it 1 mile an hour over the limit. But there we are. Ross, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Ross Clark there saying this is where the nation comes to talk, but the nation and its infrastructure is in a hell of a bad state, is it not? Let's